Oof. Oof. Ladies and gentlemen, things are not looking good for the next hype unit coming to Genshin Impact, which is Skirk. Now, we have this article over here. It says, after seeing Skirk's complete kit in Genshin Impact 5.7 leaks, I can't help but be disappointed. Now, there's a whole bunch of yapping here. We're not going to read through all of this because they're just talking about what she can do. But to make things pretty simple, if you don't put Skirk with a Hydro or Cryo unit, she is not going to receive a 170% normal attack damage boost, and she's not going to receive a 160% burst damage boost. Really insane, right? So that is the main issue with this unit. Now, here's the thing though. When it comes to how much damage she can deal, of course, nobody knows that, so we're not going to talk about that. But what we're really talking about here is the fact that in order for this character to function in a way where you don't feel as if you're being punished for not summoning for a unit like, let's say, Escoffier, who's a cryo unit that reduces the enemy's cryo resistance, it's like they're essentially trying to punish players for not summoning for that character. And if you're not putting Skirk in a team where there's Hydro and cryo characters, get fucked. Like it's that simple. Get fucked. Now, there is this, passive talent over here where if you put her in a team where you can trigger free super conduct, crowd swirl, crowd crystallize reactions, there's gonna be like this mechanic, right? Where she's going to get more serpent cunning stacks, right? And she's like, it says when she's in 7-fold flash mode, by activating her special burst in 7-fold flash and by holding her skill to enter the rapid movement state, whatever. It's like for this passive talent, it's like if you have these elemental reactions that revolve around cryo, then she's going to, be a lot easier to use, right? When it comes to functionality, it's going to be a lot easier to use. She's going to function properly. But the thing is, this is just bait. Honestly, this is really bait because they're trying to bait you in and make you think, oh, I don't need to put her in a team where there's Hydro or cryo units in order for me to use her, which is true. But if you don't put her with Hydro or cryo characters, you're not going to receive this huge damage boost. And this shit is just fucking annoying, right? Because at this point, team building is all about you crafting team comps that you feel comfortable with. But while you're doing this, you don't feel as if you're being punished for trying to, pretty much trying to build multiple teams around the character you're trying to use. For example, Skirk. Like when we take a look at the, the glory days of Genshin Impact, and when it comes to team building, you look at characters like Bennett, Farina, Jean, all these characters that can essentially buff your allies. Now, I don't think Jean can buff. I have no idea. It's been a minute since I played the game. But you have Diona, who can increase elemental mastery at C6. You have Kujo Sara that can increase, I think, crit damage. I forgot. But when it comes to team building, support characters are there to buff your DPS units, right? Sub DPS units are there to essentially not only deal, decent damage, but they're there to pretty much enhance the performance of your DPS characters, and at the same time, they can also buff your allies as well, and it can deal some good damage at the same time. Meanwhile, for DPS units, their job is to just pretty much deal damage. That is the ideal way to build your teams. And that's the best part about team building, is you crafting multiple teams and seeing which team works best for you. But when you have bullshit like this, where they're saying, okay, if you want this character to deal good amount of damage, you have to put her with Hydro and cryo characters. At this point, team building is getting to a point where it's like the devs are essentially forcing players to essentially make them use characters that they don't feel like using. But they have to do it because if they don't, then their damage is going to fall off like a cliff. We take a look at Zani's situation in Wuwa, where if you don't put her in a Spectral Frazzle team, her performance is, kind of iffy. Of course, you can use her however you want, do what you got to do. But when it comes to functionality, when it comes to performance, not putting Zani in a Spectral Frazzle team, you're essentially crippling the character. And I ain't gonna lie to you guys, I did take a look at Cardathia's leak. Her kit was leaked, and things are not looking good for that character. I'm gonna take you with a huge grain of salt because she's not officially released in game yet, but things are not looking good for her. All right, that's all I gotta say. Things are not looking good for Cardathia. But come back over here to Skirk. It's like, you guys can see, it says Skirk's limitation to freeze teams in Genshin Impact 5.7 is utterly disappointing. And I feel like the reason why a lot of people are just disappointed is because a character that is so hype, right? They teased this character back in Fontaine, and everybody was excited for this unit. And to realize that, oh damn, bro, if I don't put her in a specific team comp, her damage is gonna fall off like a cliff. It's like it is frustrating. It really is, man. It really is frustrating to realize that a character that you're excited for, if you don't put her in a specific team comp, she's not gonna feel that good. Now, of course, we haven't seen her damage yet, so we're not gonna jump to conclusions. But based off of the information we have as of to right now, things are not looking good for Skirk. And if you are trying to use her in whatever team you want to put her in, if it's not a team where there's a Hydro and Cryo unit, you're pretty much crippling the character. And that's why team building is really getting annoying. And it's not just for Genshin, it's for HSR as well, and it's also for WUWA. It's like, I don't understand why these devs, they're making these characters so restrictive. Like, you look at WUWA, and the negative stats effect trend is so fucking annoying, how they're releasing these units that revolve around negative stats effect, and there's not enough characters to essentially enable inflict negative stats effect on that unit in order for these DPS units to work properly. It's like, why introduce a system or mechanic, but you don't really have enough units that can actually activate that mechanic so that these other units can work properly? It just makes no fucking sense to me. So yeah, for Skirk, it's like, I'm not surprised, guys. I'm not surprised. You look at the Spiral Abyss reset right now, and when you take a look at the Spiral Abyss reset, you got Geo damage buff, and you also have crowd damage buff. And guess who's on banner right now? Navia and a Scophier, a crowd unit and a Geo unit. They're gonna keep doing this shit. They're gonna keep doing this, and you guys already know HP inflation is going crazy in Genshin Impact right now, and they're literally implementing bosses that have dumbass mechanics that old characters cannot interact with. And if you don't summon for these Natlan characters, you're gonna have a hard time. And I'm pretty sure there is another boss as well, and that they just introduced in 5.6. In this new boss, if you don't deal crowd damage, it's gonna be the same situation where this boss is gonna have a lot of damage resistance, right? So it's obvious what Genshin Impact is doing right now. They're releasing these characters, and when they release these units are really restrictive. And then on top of that, they're releasing bosses that these new units can essentially interact with. Like, they're releasing these new bosses that have annoying mechanics, but these new characters can deal with those new bosses. But these old characters, right, say goodbye. I mean, you do have Ayaka, which is great, but at the same time, it's like Skirk crowd unit, Escoffier crowd unit, she reduces the enemy's crowd resistance. Like, it's obvious what they're doing here, guys. It's literally obvious what they're doing, and it's just gonna get worse and worse over time. To see how a unit that's so hype, they literally just said, yeah, man, we're going to make this character restrictive as fuck, to the point where if you don't put her in a Hydro and crowd team, her damage is gonna fall off like a fucking cliff. Like, it's crazy how they're literally punishing you for pretty much experimenting multiple teams. They're telling you you have to put her with cryo and Hydro. No buts or ifs, you have to. And if you put her outside of cryo and Hydro team, her damage is not going to be that crazy. And what makes this even more frustrating is the fact that you guys do realize, when we take a look at the entire cast for Genshin Impact, there are 99 playable characters, okay? We take a look at all of these units. We have Barbara. Who the fuck is going to use Barbara with Arlecchino? Who? Like, who's going to use a unit? Last time I checked, I might be wrong here, but I don't think she buffs damage at all. You look at Charlotte. I don't think Charlotte buffs damage at all either. You're just increasing her own damage. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right? So far, you got Candace. Not really going to do much. Okay? Chongyun. Who the fuck is going to use this guy? Alright? But hey, if you want to increase damage, Sit Lily. Limited 5-star character. We go to Diona. Diona is just there to apply shields and give you that additional elemental mastery. But I don't think elemental mastery is going to be good on Skirk, because she's essentially going to be in a freeze team. You're not really going to do much with elemental mastery when it comes to Skirk, right? Escoffier. Oh, reducing the enemy's cryo resistance, right? We come over here. Look at this. She restores HP, so she can essentially play as your healer. And then on top of that, Look at this, guys. When there are 1 to 4 hydro or cryo characters in a party, a Scofier will decrease the hydro resistance and cryo resistance of any opponent hit by their elemental skill for elemental burst by a 5% to a 55% for 12 seconds. And this is a limited 5-star character, and she's in the game right now. She's on banner right now. Let's continue. We look at Eula. Who the fuck is going to use Eula, another DPS unit, physical DPS with Skirk? So we're not even going to talk about her. Freminate. Who's going to use Freminate with her? Nobody. Right? Ganyu. Why the fuck would you use a DPS cryo unit with her? You know what I'm saying? We continue even more. Kaya. He might be decent. Is he amplifying her damage though? No, he's just there to just deal cryo damage so that he can activate her passive. We continue more. Ayato, DPS unit. Layla, she might be good. Mika, I don't fucking know. Right? Nilu, who would use her with her? Nervalet, no reason to use him with Skirk because he's a DPS character. Rosaria, I think she increases crit, so she might be nice. She might be a good option, right? But you guys can clearly see here that they're essentially forcing you to put her with hydro and cryo units. But when you take a look at all of these hydro and cryo units, notice how the units that can essentially buff damage are 5-star limited characters. Xingqiu is just there to apply hydro. Yelan, however, she can increase. I think she can actually increase elemental damage. So when we come over and we take a look at her burst, so where is it at? I think it's somewhere around here. There it is. So you guys can see, so long as Exquisite Throw is in play, your own active character deals 1% more damage. This increases by a further 3.5% damage every second. The maximum increased damage dealt is 50%. Another limited 5-star character that can amplify damage. We take a look at Farina. Farina, extremely broken, but guess what? She's another limited 5-star character. So what this really comes down to is, yeah, you put her with a hydro and cryo unit that can deal damage, so therefore you can, you know, essentially activate this passive where she can deal more damage with her normal attack and with her burst damage as well. But at the same time, are those characters amplifying her damage? No, they're just there so that she can actually use this passive. It's just ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous how when it comes to team building now, you have to use these characters just so that the character can actually function. But when it comes to you enhancing their performance and amplifying their damage, oh, get that limited 5-star character. Get a Scofier if you want to reduce the enemy's cryo resistance. Get Shinha if you want to increase her damage, increase her cryo damage. Get Yelan if you want to increase her elemental damage. Get Farina if you want to increase her damage. Get these 5-star limited characters, but when it comes to the 4-star characters, yeah, they're just there to just deal the damage, to be honest. They're just there to just deal the damage so that you can actually use her passive. You're not really amplifying her damage at all. Just ridiculous, man. Now, I will say it's still good, the fact that you do have a lot of 4-star alternatives that she can actually function properly. I will give them that, okay? You do have a lot of 4-star characters that you can put with her so that she can actually activate that passive. Something that Wu have failed at because they barely have any 4-star characters, which is just frustrating. So I will give Genshin that, all right? I will give them that. Even though it's frustrating the fact that you have to put her in a Hydro and Crowd team, at the same time, you do have a lot of these other alternatives that are there to deal Crown and Hydro damage so that she can actually use this passive. It's just that the annoying part is the fact that most of these 4-star Crown Hydro units don't really amplify her damage whatsoever. They're just there to entertain her passive, and that's pretty much it. And once again, man, this shit right here is just straight up bait, man. They pretty much said it right here. They said Skirk will seemingly get huge damage bonuses plus an increase to her skills level when she is aided by Hydro and Cryo characters exclusively. So even if she can create risk when paired with Electro, Animal, and Geo characters, it's best to go all in with Freeze. So yeah, like they're pretty much saying, oh, you know, if you don't put her in a team with Cryo and Hydro, you can still, you know, use her with, you know, Cryo Swirl teams or Cryo Crystallized teams or Super Conduct teams. So you can use her with Electro characters, Geo characters, Animal characters. Fuck out of here, man. You guys know full and well what you're doing, man. You want people to put her in a Hydro and Cryo team. Stop lying. Stop acting as if, you know, putting her in any other team is going to be good. No. If you don't put her with Hydro and Cryo, all this thing, like everything you see right over here, everything you see highlighted right here, you might as well just forget about it. Just forget about it. Forget about it. Really unfortunate, really sad. Of course, we're gonna have to wait and see her actual damage in game, but as up to right now, when it comes to functionality and how this character performs, if you don't put her with Hydro Cryo units, you will get punished for that. Team building is getting annoying. I don't understand why these developers are trying so hard to punish players for not using specific team comps. Like, at first, it would be use summoning for support characters, and then you're pretty much good to go. Like, if you have a Bennett, just put that Bennett with that new character, and that's it. If you have Farina, just put Farina with that character and you're good to go. Farina's definitely going to be good with her because she is a Hydro unit. But what I'm saying here is, before all this restriction, like before all these restrictions took place, it was about you summoning for support characters that you want to that you feel like summoning for. For example, let's say Nahida, she busts elemental mastery, you put that with Tainari, you're cooking. Any elemental mastery unit, you're cooking with Nahida. Diona, C6 Diona, elemental mastery buff, really good as well. Like, that's what team building was all about. You getting these units, and they can work with multiple DPS characters. But thanks to these dumbass passes where they're like, oh guys, if you don't put it with Hydro and Cryo, you're not going to receive this damage. It's like, come on, dude. Come on, bro. Like, team building just gets annoying. And it's like, at this point, it's really just you putting these characters in specific team comps. And if you put them in any team outside of that specific team, then just go fuck yourself. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Hope you guys have a good one, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.